Hello everyone, good evening. I hope I'm audible as well as visible. Do let me know in the chat, guys, if you are with me and I'm audible and visible to you guys. So it's been quite some time we are doing the classes, so it's almost like 15 days since we had our last class. So I thought to start something really interesting today. So I mean, we were getting a lot of feedback to start the data science stuff. So I thought to rather add the existing Python part which we're doing with the data science, right? So maybe that's definitely gonna be a plus for all of us who are being part of our chat, right? So again guys, since we're starting after so many days, if anybody feels like they want to discuss anything or anything which they have in their mind to talk, so please feel free and utilize this time to put your questions in the chat, so I'm monitoring it so we can have a quick discussion over there. But anyway, if nobody has anything, so we can quickly start, and do let me know guys if I'm audible to you, so I hope that is fine. Great. So again, a warm welcome to one and all so who are part of our lecture today. So I really welcome you back. So I hope you had a good Diwali and the chat vacations. So I know we hope you guys are doing well. Great guys. Thank you so much, Needy Gamer. Thank you for confirming. Great. So let's start. So I'll start with the basic introduction as always, right? So great. So anyway, so we are going to start with the Seaborn. So one of the very interesting packages in Python for data science. So if anybody has any basic information and any knowledge about Seaborn, do let me know that. Anyway, we will be starting from scratch, and we'll try to build on top of that. We'll try to see as many functionalities as we can, right? But again, anybody has any knowledge, they can definitely let me know that. So we have started a new series altogether. So the playlist is available on the YouTube description. So we are starting a new playlist. So it's Python for data science. So not core Python. So we are going to mix data science with Python. That's what we have started. And for the lecture one, we're going to start with the Seaborn, right? So something on visualization part. So we're going to look at Seaborn. So Seaborn is one of the packages, guys, for visualization in data. So we're going to do that. But before that, a quick round of introduction. So as you know, my name is Arpit Jain and I'm a senior data scientist myself. I have almost 9 years of industry experience. I'm a motivational speaker as well, so I take career mentorship. So if anybody has any question regarding their career, do let me know that. The subjects which will be discussing during our course is Python, SQL, data science. So Python we have already started a couple of months back, so a lot of things covered there. SQL also we've started. We have seen some good queries, practice questions. So SQL is towards the weekends. So we'll be doing SQL over the weekends, and weekdays we'll be doing Python. So, and definitely data science, we have clubbed data science with Python. So we have already done that. So today we're going to start with Seaborn, and after this, a lot of good things coming up. So TensorFlow is one of the things which is right after Seaborn. So we're going to cover TensorFlow as well. And post that a couple of good things I've planned. So we're going to take it as it comes. But again, guys, I'm very flexible with the content. So do let me know if any specific thing you want me to cover. So TensorFlow was one of the feedbacks I received during our last playlist. But again, if anybody has any other advice, suggestion which you want me to cover, do let me know in the chat. So I can try to incorporate that in the upcoming lectures. We can do that. Great. So as always, guys, so you have this code right in front of your screen, which is Python 10. And if you're going to use that, you'll be getting a free Relevel sample test paper, right? So by now you must be knowing what is Relevel, but again, do let me quickly introduce to you that particular platform. So Relevel is nothing but I would say a great platform launched by Unacademy is towards your jobs. Okay, so many a times, candidates do feel that they're missing out on opportunities. There might be multiple reasons for that, right? So it could be like they don't have a better degree, or they might not be having a good networking. So by a better degree, I mean not from a tier A universities, or maybe poor networking, right? So they don't know the right people from the industry to get the referrals or the jobs, or the right notification. So this could be a potential reason for candidate missing out on the great opportunities. Also, the resumes is not really standing out with the hundred other applicants for the same job, right? So there is something in the resume which might miss out, so you're not getting shortlisted for the uh, technical discussions. And also multiple reasons, like you have applied for 50, 60, 100 odd jobs and still you're not getting the calls. Very practical reason, guys. But again, you might be missing out on opportunities on this. So to cater these issues, Relevel has been introduced, and it's one of the India's first tech hiring platform. So and it's actually helping you to get your dream job. And how does it do that? So here you are purely based on your skills and talent. It's not at all dependent on any sort of your degree or your networking on anything else apart from this. It's purely based on your skills and talent. So it's a testing platform basically. So you have to choose the portfolio which you want to go through, and the portfolio basically you want to choose as your career objective path. And post that, you'll be asked to go through an assessment. So it's going to be a technical assessment. There'll be a test which you have to appear for. There'll be multiple rounds in that test. You'll get to know the details once you sign up, right? So the only expectation from you is to score well in this test. Definitely there'll be some eligibility criteria, but again, the only expectation from you is to score well, and based on your score, the companies who are having the tie-ups with Relevel, they'll be calling you. So you have to just give the test and just wait for the companies to reach out, right? So that's how Relevel works. So there are certain other benefits also involved with the Relevel platform, right? So I'll just brief out you a couple of those. So there are almost 50 plus companies who are hiring directly from Relevel as a platform. So they have a tie-up. So these includes the top startups and even the unicorns like ENY, Cred, Upgrad, Razorpay, Urban Company, and many more, right? So they are hiring directly from Relevel. There are 1,000 plus open job position across 3 portfolios right now: business development, front end, and the back end development. And it's a completely online platform, guys. You can take it from the comfort of your home, so no need to step out, no need to be physically present anywhere. It's purely online based platform. And the best part is you can take it for completely free, so there's no cost involved in this right now. It's a beta platform. There might be some cost later, but not right now. The only expectation from you is to finish your entire test in a single day time. So as I said, there will be multiple rounds, but the only expectation is you finish those entire all rounds in a single day, and that day could be of your choice, right? So once you clear the test, guys, with the qualifying score, you will be able to create an amazing candidate profile, which will actually help you showcase your skills and stand out from the crowd. And something that stands out always gets noticed by the companies, right? So, and to get the Relevel profile, right, so you have to score at least 70% of the marks, and right now it's for 1,000, so you have to score 700. That's a qualifying criteria, and anything on top of that is cherry on the cake, right? And the candidates can take this test a number of times, but only after 30 days, right? So once you have appeared for the test, only after 30 days from the day one, you can reapply for the test, and if you don't meet the qualifying criteria. And also there'll be some rewards like MacBook, iPhone, and many other such exciting goodies for the highest rank holders for the particular category in the month, right? So with Relevel, guys, you're in a unique position to invite interest from the companies instead of you hunting for your own job, right? So once you have the great score, sit back and relax. The companies will reach out to you. So that's how it works, right? Park, yes, there is a demo test. So if you use this code Python 10, right, so you'll get the sample paper, right? So as I was talking about that, so once you register for the platform, right, I'll show it to you how you're going to register it. But again, if you use this code Python 10, you will be getting the sample test. That's going to help you. Cool. And even the registering on the platform is quite easy. So you have to just sign up on this link, and the link is given in the YouTube description also. And once you have signed up, right, it'll ask you the test of your choice. So there are 3 tests right now: business development, front-end development, and the back-end development. So I've already told you this, right? So again, multiple roles available within this. Business development includes sales associate, business development manager, front-end has Angular developer, web developer, backend has data engineer, backend engineer, and something like that. So based on your interest, right, you can choose the stream, the test of your choice. And once you have selected the test of your choice, the next thing is that to look out for the date. So the available dates, available slots. So again, the slots are limited, you have to book it fast. So once you've selected the test of your choice, the next thing is it'll be asking for you to create a neat video resume, right? So and again, you'll be talking about yourself in this. Give a brief introduction about yourself, your achievements, your stuff, what you've done till date. In a crisp 30 seconds to 3 minutes of a video, upload it, done. So wait for your D-Day, and then give your best for the test, right? So why to wait, guys? Do register for the Relevel platform right now, and you have the link in the description, right? Cool, so that's it. And we have an official Telegram channel as well. Again, that link is there in the description, so do join this. So you will be having the regular updates about our upcoming lecture sessions coming up. So there's a one place stop for you. You won't be running around here and there, so you'll be getting the details from this channel itself. Guys, again, plain request, if you feel that you're getting benefited, do like, share and subscribe the channel, and that's the minimum we can ask for. Right, so we are into a content now. So Python for data science, that's our new stream, so new playlist which we've started with. And we are starting with something on visualization. So Seaborn is one of the packages, as you know, I was talking about. So it's one of the packages where we can be using this, and we're gonna learn some good things on Seaborn. So some good visualizations, multiple graphs, usefulness of these graphs, why and when to use which graph, and what is the output, how we can play around with the graphs, and also some things I'm gonna be talking about that. But again, do let me know if you want me to cover anything else. Cool. So okay, one more question. So kindly please complete the SQL lectures. We're waiting for that from a long time. Yes, absolutely, Parag. So we are doing SQL over the weekends as always. So even in so we are starting SQL again in this weekend. So remember that weekday is gonna be for Python, weekend is gonna be for SQL. So we have marathon classes coming up this weekend. So we're gonna have 4 hours lectures, so 2 hours each on Saturday and Sunday for SQL. So we're going to be doing that, so don't worry about it. Yeah, so I was unavailable for quite some time, so we are coming back online after almost 10-15 days, I believe. Great. So but again, thank you for remembering that. So we're going to be covering SQL anyway over the weekends, so we'll be talking about that. Okay. Selab says, I know Python. Should I go for this course? I mean, yeah, it's totally your choice, Selab. If you know Seaborn, if you know everything, I mean, you can better let us know in that case. But again, see, there's always good thing to learn. Maybe you might be missing out something, right? So why not? So, I mean, if you feel that you know this, you can skip it. Or if you feel that, during the course, you don't know it, it's always good to know that, right? So it's up to you. It's your choice, right? So, I mean, I cannot really comment. Because the contents which I have prepared, I mean, you can just go through it once. I mean, if you feel like you already know it, so you can skip it probably, right? But anyway, so with this, guys, let me just jump into the content part now. So we're gonna be starting something on Seaborn. Let me know once my screen is visible for Seaborn. Just a minute, right? Cool. I hope my screen is visible. Cool. So we're gonna be starting with Seaborn. I'm gonna have some content prepared for Seaborn. We're gonna be doing that. Okay. We have one question. Can you elaborate what is data science? And data science or data analytics are different. Good question. Good question. Okay. Cool. So okay, I mean, it's all are, I would say, more of synonyms, and more of there are many terms I've been hearing these days, right? And it's all confusing. Okay, I'll just give you a very nutshell kind of a definition. Okay, and do not get confused by that. So any data science basically kya hai? Data science, it's more of a science or a field which plays around with the data. Right, so which is actually helping you understand the information which is already available within the data to get the business benefit outputs, right? So data science is basically the knowledge or the field or I would say the kind of a subject per that say, right, which is helping you to get the business output from the data, right? So that is data science. So science of data, right? So you're doing the science on data. But data analytics, I would say, again, it's a synonymous word. So do not confuse that data science is completely different from data analytics, right? So see, again, data science, I would say, is more of a definitive work. It's more of a bookish definition, right? But analytics on the ground, you're doing some analysis work, right? So the I would say the technical aspects behind the getting the information from your data, getting the business output, the benefits from the data, available data, that is what is called as analytics, right? And per se data analytics in that sense, right? And data analytics involves definitely some kind of tools and techniques. So techniques is where your statistics, your machine learning, and those stuff comes. And the tools, definitely there may be some language, maybe some Python, or maybe even the BI tools like Tableau, Kibana, or Power BI, whatever you're doing, and even the Alteryx. There are many tools available to do your analytics. Even Excel, in that sense, is a tool for me to do data analytics, right? So data science is nothing but a science on data. So you are you're trying to find out something, the science, the knowledge, or the kind of I would say the subject which is helping you get the information out of data, that is data science. But data analytics is more of the technical steps or the kind of need way for your the job which is expected to be outcome of data science, right? And you might be needing the tools and the techniques. So that's purely, I would say, a layman definition of a data science and data analytics. But again, I'm going to be telling you very honestly, do not get confused by these terms. Basically, your objective is to do stuff on data, right? So when you have a data, right, so data, definitely there are 2-3 things which you are generally doing on data, right? First, data. The very foremost and the important thing is to get the data, right? So data आएगा कहाँ से? Data, how will you get the data, right? So data कहाँ है मतलब कैसे मिलेगा data, right? So the first question you should be asking is how to get the data, from where to are getting the data, right? So for this, every different domain, every different company has their own respective databases or the source from where they're generating the data, right? So that is different. That is dependent on the companies. Multiple databases are involved in this. So SQL, NoSQL. So and for that we're doing something on SQL also, right? So how to extract, how to write the queries to get the data. So and again, a big data as well. So that's the first thing to get the data. The second thing is now we have the data stored somewhere, right? Now to do some analytics on it, right? Maybe some kind of trend identification, some statistical information to be done, to be performed on top of that. So definitely we would be doing some tools, right? So and this statistical measures, right? Analysis itself involves 2 things. The first is the core statistical analytics, right? The second is visual analytics. So statistical analytics में आपका सारा statistics आ जाता है. So whatever you have learned in stats, maybe there are a lot of things. The tests are involved, certain statistical tests, your correlations, your multicollinearity, your outliers, the multiple things. So you have EDS, the exploratory data analysis करते हो. So that's pure towards your data science analytics part. But again, on top of that, we are not purely based on the numbers, but also to make it more, I would say, definitive or understandable, right? So we're trying to visualize the data. So visualization जहाँ पर होता है, that's where my the visual graphs comes into picture, right? So we plot multiple graphs. बहुत सारे types of graphs होते हैं. If you have heard of, do let me know yes. If you don't know it, just say no on the chat, right? So there are certain graphs like scatter plot, bar plot, box plot, violin plot, slim plot, a strip plot, a lot of things, right? So there are a lot of multiple plots available which we generally plot on top of my data. So every plot has a definitive objective and there's a usage behind it. So we cannot plot every data, we cannot plot every, we cannot do every plotting on all type of data, right? So definitely some set of data are are more defined towards certain type of plots, right? So we have to understand the objective. So that's where visual analytics come. And for that visual analytics, we have some certain good packages or good information available for Python. So the base which has always been for the visual analytics is matplotlib. So matplotlib, if you've heard of, it's a very base thing, right? So it has always been there. So, and the Seaborn, which is I'm going to talking about today, is an advancement over Matplotlib, right? So Matplotlib, I'll show you the difference once I'll be giving you the plots, right? So Seaborn is more, I would say, eye-catchy in terms of the plots, right? The plots are more they're having multiple options within the Seaborn. You can more fine tune your graphs. You can make it more attractive, right? So Seaborn is basically, I would say, an advancement over Matplotlib, and it's actually built on top of Matplotlib. It's basically using internal Matplotlib functionalities, and on top of that, there's certain additional functionalities added for Seaborn. So Seaborn is an advancement over Matplotlib. So generally, for the past 5-6 years, I would say people were doing some things on Matplotlib, but Seaborn has eventually come up again with time, and Seaborn graphs are very, very attractive, guys. Right, so we're going to be just talking about that, and as we said, that's my second step, data analysis, and the third is the predictions, right? So once we have the data, analysis is in picture, all the data has been analyzed, EDS is done. Now based on that, I'm going to be building the models, the trends, right? And based on that patterns, I'm going to be predicting the future, right? So based on the current state numbers, what numbers will be there X amount of time after, X time after the current time, right? So this is like more of a future prediction of the current information. So, and it could be, maybe the prediction could be of a number. So suppose, say I'm saying that, a price of a particular commodity. So price of, say, car, right? So any car you're predicting, any car you're buying today. So what is the future predicted car value or future predicted car price, maybe 10 years down the line, or say 5 years down the line, maybe, electric cars are coming up. So probably the fuel-based cars prices might go down, or they go obsolete in some few years, right? So according the predictions of a number, that could be one particular prediction. Second could be a class. So maybe good, bad, yes, no, 0, 1, right? So these are prediction of a class. Again, some sort of prediction. Again, if there is no prediction involved, like for example, there's no a continuous, there's no number or a class involved. So maybe based on certain data, and without any label, without any information output variable, I'm gonna be doing some sort of say clustering. So I'm combining the data to form a group, right? To form a similarity kind of a thing, right? So based on the available data, what sort of information are similar, right? So I'm trying to find the similarity between my data. That is something called as clustering kind of a use case. And then we have market basket analysis, right? So we are doing some market basket analysis. Like for example, you're going to a supermarket, right? And you are seeing certain things lined up in the aisles, right? For example, bread. So you're seeing bread. So along with bread, you are mostly seeing the butter or the milk racked up nearby to that place. So there is a high chances that if you're buying bread, most probably you'll be buying butter or jam or ketchup or maybe milk products similarly. So you will not be seeing a milk tied up with a baby diaper, right? Or a milk tied up with a say something else, which is like say a very not so relatable in that fashion. So the stacking up of my relatable items in the supermarket is also something called as market basket analysis, and something again recommendation systems, right? So there are a lot of things which is actually involved in analytics, right? So we're going to talking about that eventually. So we have a lot of things in plan, and trust me, I'll be covering almost everything to the best of my knowledge, and we'll be trying to kind of add to, and not only the theoretical parts, we'll be actually implementing those on top of my Python. So we'll be doing that. But again, to start with today, I'm going to doing with Seaborn, right? Cool. So let me then start with the Seaborn. Any heads up, guys? Anything? Any questions in the background which I've just given? Parak, did I answer your question, or was it too elaborate? Saransh, is ML used in cloud? Yeah, obviously, why not? See, cloud क्या है? Basically, मैं आपको वो समझा देता हूँ. So, अभी आप कोई भी code run करते हो, for example, Python code है, right? So you're running on your own system, right? On your laptop, right? So, but when you go for a business, when you go for a company, right? So, for example, I'm running it on my system. So I'm actually calling up some data, running it on my system. So that data is also lying in my system, and I'm calling that data, loading that data into my runtime environment of Python, which is my local environment. So I have certain limitations. So RAM hardly क्या होगा, 16 GB RAM होगा, 32 GB RAM होगा, उससे ज़्यादा तो नहीं होगा, right? So if the data size is huge, suppose data मेरा 100 GB का है, so आपको लगता है can I process that 100 GB data on my system? No, I cannot, right? So to process that 100 GB of data, first I have to store that data somewhere, right? So it has to be some place, either a supercomputer or a virtual machine or something, right? So that place where I'm gonna have all the other services involved, like for example, a database service, or maybe a runtime environment to run the Python codes or something else, right? So that's basically cloud, right? So cloud basically is giving you an environment where you can host multiple services, right? Like for example, AWS, Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, right? So it's just a platform which is giving you a kind of a space based on your requirement, whatever you want to work on top of that, right? So you can have your database service there, you can have your Jupyter service there, whatever service you want. And in fact, those I would say these clouds are having inbuilt services as well. And in fact, auto ML, you might have heard of AWS in, right? So there are a lot of functionalities are now coming up for analytics in turn to these clouds as well, where they can do the analytics on top of based on your in their available services as well, right? So that is again totally, but again, to answer your question, definitely. So ML is used. Why not? ML, I would say, can be used. I wouldn't say is always used, depending on the use case, right? So yes, why not? ML is actually used on top of cloud. So we are deploying our codes on cloud, right? Okay, so Shonak says, can we use Seaborn data visualization just like Power BI data visualization? Yeah, why not? So see, again, Power BI, Tableau, these are the BI tools, right? So they have certain set of inbuilt features, right? So you might not be able to replicate the exact similar thing on Seaborn, but I would say still Seaborn is providing you almost equally comparable things, right? But again, if you're not able to do it directly with the Seaborn, you might be able to do it with maybe a couple of mixture of 2-3 concepts and then try to implement it on Seaborn. We can still do that, right? So Python is very much friendly and is open, and in fact you still feel that there is something missing out, you can write your own code to have the similar thing which you have done on Power BI on Seaborn, right? So it's still possible. But again, if you ask me, can I directly replicate the Power BI on Seaborn? No. So Power BI ka functionalities are different, right? But again, you can take a reference from there and try to replicate those graphs on Seaborn. That will be possible. Okay? Cool guys, thank you so much for interacting, and that is something which I want. So I don't want to keep on talking, but again, if you ask me the questions, I should be able to explain it more in a better way. And thank you so much for that. Cool guys, so as I was explaining, so Seaborn is nothing but a high level API for visualization. Okay, so it's more towards, I would say, an high end visualization functionality available in Python, right? And as I said, it is built up on top of Matplotlib library, and it is actually very much friendly with the data structures. It includes pandas and numpys, right? It works really well with the data frames. So that is something, a very good advantage of Seaborn, right? And as I've said, it is built on top of the originally based platform, which is Matplotlib, right? So a few basic salient differences between Seaborn and Matplotlib. As I said, Seaborn is an extension of Matplotlib, and it's fairly good for the hard works as well. So when I say hard work, the complex graphs, when you want to incorporate multiple things in a single graph, right? So you will be talking about that. So when you want to add multiple things on a single graph, so that's where the things becomes a little fishy and tricky in that sense, I would say. So that's where Seaborn is very much competent. But Matplotlib is also fairly good for your easy works. But again, Seaborn is more visual and more attractive, I would say. Right, and as I was saying, Seaborn is well known to work with data frames, pandas, numpy, job ka data hoga. You can easily plot your graphs on top of your data frame. So that is very good. ठीक है. Salient features Seaborn के built-in themes. So we have really some good built-in themes. I'll be showing you that, right? And it's actually good for both the univariate and the bivariate analysis. So अभी univariate and bivariate keyword है. ये है क्या? So example. अब suppose मेरे पास data है. Suppose I have a data frame. I have 10 columns A B C D E F G H. So whatsoever a column. So 10 columns A B C D करके, ठीक है. Abhi, if I want to analyze, if I want to see the trend of a single column, so suppose I want to see the trend of column A, column B, column C, क्या line trend है, क्या chart है, जो भी single column पे अगर मैं कुछ भी देखना चाह रहा हूँ, that is my univariate analysis. Okay, uni मतलब single, variate मतलब variable. So single variable का जो भी analysis होता है, that is univariate analysis. Okay, bivariate analysis क्या होता है? Bi मतलब दो, right? So two. So two variables का analysis, that is bivariate analysis. So if I'm analyzing a cross sectional data like A versus B, B versus C, or D versus A, right? So multiple different combinations पे अगर मैं analysis कर रहा हूँ, that is bivariate analysis. So this Seaborn is actually very good for both univariate as well as bivariate analysis. Okay. And also it is very handy for regression or a time series kind of a data. Regression क्या होता है? So now you have a continuous variable. Continuous variable क्या होता है सबसे पहले? So any numbers 1 2 3 4 5 6 which is countable, right? So that is my continuous data. Okay. So a continuous variable. So continuous variable के अंदर I'm putting a regression. Regression मतलब I'm trying to put a best fit line. So suppose I've plot a scatter plot. I'm trying to find a trend between my data, right? So whether it's a straight line or a horizontal line or a vertical line or a backward diagonal line, so whatever it is, right? So what is the trend? What is the available hidden trend within my data? So that is my regression. I'll be talking about regression a bit more, right? And again, time series. So how my data is varying over the time. So suppose if my data value is 1 at current time, so after 10 minutes, what is my data? After 20 minutes, what's my data? So what is my trend over the past certain time period? That is my time series analysis, right? So that is also very good. So for all of these kind of tricky data, Seaborn is quite good. It is giving me the salient features to plot the graphs on my this tricky data sets as well. So, and as I was said, it's very good to work with pandas and NumPy. Cool. So let's get started, right? So as I was saying, let's start with the very basic thing, installation. So installation is very simple, guys. As always, as I was said, we have been using it through pip, but again, you can still use conda or whatever prompt you're using, or even you can do it visual installation through Anaconda environments. But again, pip is very handy, so pip installer is quite handy, so you can use it using pip. So pip install Seaborn, very simple. The latest version is 0.11, I guess. I'm using the latest one only, so maybe a version less than the latest one. I'm not sure, but I believe it's the latest one only. And you can always check the version. So I've used it Seaborn as SNS. That's a very standard Seaborn SNS, SB. So people very standard abbreviations these for. And then version, if you check, I have it in the 0.11.1. Again, you can do it based on your any choice. We have two questions here. I said, do we have to learn Seaborn to become data scientist? That is Hadoop important. Is Hadoop important? Okay. Okay. I mean, again, I would say Seaborn is not mandatory. Seaborn is just a package, Bhargav. Okay. So again, Seaborn is very handy in terms of your data visualization. If you are able to plot your graphs using the basic features also, that's fine, but it's going to be tricky for you. So Seaborn is actually giving you a very much flexibility to plot some good graphs. But again, it's a functionality on your EDA part. And anyway, EDA is mandatory, right? Visualization is mandatory to analyze your data, right? So Seaborn I would say indirectly becomes mandatory for you, because anyway, visualization is mandatory, right? So to analyze your data. So yeah, Seaborn is actually making your work easier when you're doing the visualization part. So indirectly, yes, I would say Seaborn becomes important, right? Is Hadoop important? Okay, so good question. Hadoop is for big data, right? So okay, I would say that Hadoop, if you're starting your career, right? So there are certain mandatory skill sets you have to focus on. Okay, so again, nothing written, nothing hard and fast. But as far as my understanding, my knowledge says there are four mandatory skill sets for you for when you start your career in data science. Okay, statistics, machine learning, Python, SQL. These are your four mandatory skill sets. So Hadoop is one of the advanced skill sets, which is a good to have thing, right? But I would say it's not mandatory when you start your career. But again, if you ask me that there are say certain jobs in Hadoop, yes, definitely there is, because there are some companies who are actually working only on big data, right? So if you ask me the number of jobs, so if you say there are 100 jobs out there in the market, right? So there'll be, I would say 50-60 jobs focusing on your mandatory skill sets, stats, ML, Python, SQL. Okay, there'll be definitely some 40-50 jobs focusing on some skill sets like big data, cloud, microservices, Tableau, Power BI, Spark, a lot of other things, right? So the list is never ending. You can keep on learning. Why Hadoop? So I mean, you can learn cloud also. Cloud, maybe you have three clouds: AWS, Azure, GCP. Which one to learn? You can learn all, right? So in that way, you'll become God, right? If you keep on learning, right? But the list is never empty. So focus on the priority things. Okay. So priority when you start a career is stats, ML, Python, SQL. Post that, anything is good to have, right? So nothing hard and fast. But again, anything which you learn is good to have. Okay. But again, Seaborn is definitely, I would say, a good skill sets to have, because visualization is mandatory and Seaborn is making your job easier for visualization. Shaunak says, one more query I had. I wanted to understand what is the functional logic behind forecasting based on actuals using trend analysis. Functional logic. Okay. So I mean, in that sense, यार देखो अब हमें तो for that we have to go deep in every other algorithms, right? So because see, functional logic is different for every algorithm, and in machine learning predictions has multiple algorithms. So tree based algorithms hai, standard algorithms hai, linear regression, classes के लिए logistics hai, and then we have tree based, maybe multiple tree based models, and then we have multiple other models are SVMs, naive based. So every algorithm has their own functional logic behind the prediction model, right? Because अगर सब same तरीके से काम करेगा तो मतलब ही क्या है in different algorithms, right? So algorithm का मतलब क्या होता है? There is certain logic behind the predictions, right? So for that, to get to know the functional logic behind the forecasting, so basically वो machine learn कैसे करता है, कैसे सीख रहा है वो pattern, right? And वो pattern सीखने के बाद predict कैसे कर रहा है. So basically आप ये जानना चाह रहे हो, and I got a question. So and for that, just bear with me for maybe a few more lectures, I would say, because I'll be trying to cover the algorithms one by one. Okay, so in that sense, I will be able to give you the clear picture of every algorithm, and because the functional logic will be varying from every other for every other algorithm. ठीक है, Shaunak? Bhargav says, I currently know ML, Python, R, deep learning, SQL, MongoDB, framework, Dash. Is it necessary to get a job in data science? Is it necessary to get a job in data science and analytics? Yeah, I think you are pretty much good with almost everything. So you know ML, Python, R, deep learning. So it's pretty good thing. I mean, I would say your list is actually very good, Bhargav. So yeah, definitely go ahead. I mean, I'm not sure if you're currently working in data science, but again, if you're looking for a job, and then if you really know these concepts which you have mentioned in the chat, definitely you should start applying immediately. Okay. So if you're in fourth year, Bhargav, yes, these are the good, I would say, very good skill sets to have, right? And I would say you're already going very fast, and it's quite good skill sets. So once you're done with your placements, right? So depending on a job which you're getting, you can also look for off campuses, and in off campuses you can definitely look for the jobs in analytics, right? So because you already have those key skill sets, so you can start applying. Cool. So that's about the Seaborn. Now, okay, the good thing in Seaborn is Seaborn comes handy with some pre-loaded data sets. Okay, so there are certain good data sets already available within your Seaborn package. So once you install the Seaborn package, right? So by default, there are certain packages which is getting loaded with your own Seaborn installation, right? So, and now, I mean, it's just a package. So get dataset names is a functionality if you do that, right? So if I run it, so you'll be able to see, okay, I have not let me just import it. Cool. So if I just run it, right, so you'll be able to see certain good list of handy data sets available in your runtime. You can see this. So you might have heard Iris dataset, very common data sets to start practicing. Iris, MPG, Titanic dataset, right? So these are some tips dataset. This is very common data sets which we generally use when we are in your learning phase, right? So I'll show you around these data sets and how you can plot the graphs. But again, very good thing to install Seaborn is it comes with some preloaded data sets already. And how can you see this? Using this function get dataset names. Okay, so now if you want to load a certain data in your data set, so I might have done it before. Let me just show it to you. Yes. Okay. So, or maybe just let me show it right here only. Okay. So now suppose that I want to load any data, right? So for example, suppose I want to load Iris. So Iris is like, so SNS dot load, I think load datasets is the function here, load dataset. And then I'm going to pass Iris, right? So let's look at the Iris dataset. So now what I've done, I've just loaded this dataset Iris. And now can you see this? So Iris is my data frame which has like 5 columns: sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and species. So species like flowers, species, and all that. So flowers ka sepal and the petal length width, right? So it's a good data set to plot certain graphs. I'll show you how to see this. Likewise, you can see Titanic. So I'm gonna load Titanic. So Titanic, again, you can see it's like survived, the class, the sex, age, right? And the fare, embarked, class, so a lot of things. So very good information. Likewise, you can look for tips. So you can load whatever data you want, right? And then eventually based on that data, I'll be loading these data sets during the course of our Seaborn discussion. I'll be plotting the various graphs. But again, I'm just running you around with the available functions we have, okay? So now you can see this. So under tips, we have total bill per tip kitna mila, and who was the, the sex of the tip payer. Was he smoker or non-smoker, days, which day of the week he was giving this tip, time, dinner, lunch kya hai, and the size of the people for the dining purpose. So very good data sets, right? So these are very handy data sets, again, I would say, to start your work. So even if you're not doing anything, right, you can just install Seaborn just to have these data sets handy to start working, right? So it's a very good standard data sets available, right? So always very handy for you. Okay, cool. So now let's do one thing. So let's start plotting some graphs. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, so matplotlib की ऊपर advancement है ये Seaborn. So let's try to see कि वो क्या advancement है, right? And how can I visually distinguish that advancement? Because ultimately I'm going to use Seaborn, right? So I should be having a valid justification that okay, that advancement is what I'm looking for, or even that advancement is not useful for me at all, right? So there has to be some logic behind it, right? So let's do that. So now what I've done is, so I have just imported matplotlib also. So matplotlib के अंदर actually pyplot होता है. So pyplot is where my plotting functionalities are available. So I've imported that using PLT, right? And now I have just basically created a simple sine function. Okay, so again, don't ask me the logic of this. Is once you start coding, right, you will understand the logic. So we in the NumPy classes we discussed about line space, right? So line space आपको पता है. So I'm starting with 0 till 14. I want 100 data points between these, evenly spaced, and I'm just plotting a graph using a sine function. So I'm creating a sine wave here. Okay, so just a function to create a sine wave. I've already written that, right? I wanted to show it to you. So how does it look like? So this is how my basic sine wave looks, right? So I'm creating 5 different sine waves. Can you see this with a function of 0.5 and varying by I, right? So I'm just creating some 5 different sine waves. Okay, cool. So this is using the basic PLT function, basic matplotlib. Okay, so this is very basic graph. So now what I've done is I've created a sine wave on my matplotlib. Okay, So now how can I advance it? So now can you see this? So now I'm going to plot the same graph, which is my sine wave, using a Seaborn. Okay, so I'm just using the same function. Okay, same function. Now what I'm doing is I'm now importing a Seaborn function here. Okay, so I'm importing a Seaborn function, Seaborn library here, and with this Seaborn I'm just using a function set. Okay, so I'll tell you what exactly this is. So as I was saying, this Seaborn is on top of my matplotlib. Okay, so I'm just still keeping the same sine plot function, basically this sine plot. So I'm using the sine plot as it is, and on this sine plot I'm showing PLT to show. Basically I'm showing the graph, right? And but before this I'm starting with Seaborn. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm just using the same plot, the same so I'm using the Seaborn with the default functionalities. So and this, to use the default we use set. Okay, so to initiate my Seaborn functionalities we use a function set. Okay, so I'm gonna use Seaborn.set. Now if I do it, can you see the difference? So now here it's a very plain looking graph, same thing. Now everything is same here, but now with this I've used, now the graph is more visual. Can you see this? The difference is, it's compared to this, it's more attractive. We have added, so by default it has added some grid in the background. Can you see this, right? So some check boxes, so some kind of grid it is added in the background. So this is my default functionalities available within my Seaborn. Likewise, there are certain other advancements on top of my Seaborn, but again, just to show you the very basic difference in the default functionalities of my matplotlib and Seaborn. So I've just used the basic Seaborn.set. That's just using the basic Seaborn functionalities, right? So with this I'm saying this, to plot the matplotlib graph, I'm plotting it through Seaborn. That's what I'm doing it here. Okay, so you can see the difference, right? So I have in the Seaborn, it is by default added some grid in the background. Okay, so basically the thing is, the representation of my data is same, but the representation style varies. Okay, so that's the difference. And now this matplotlib, I would say when you talk about the Seaborn, right? So the Seaborn is splitting my matplotlib parameters into two different groups. The first is plot styles and the second is plot scale. What is my plot style? Basically the grid which is there in the background. What kind of lookout, what kind of feel I want from the graph. That is my plot style, the theme of it. Okay. Plot scale. What scale? Scale, I mean the kind of text marks, these features, any kind of visual attractions you want on the scaling front. So we're going to be doing that. So there are two things, styles and the scale. So we're going to be talking about that individually. Okay. So first thing is definitely style. So style, can you see the style I was talking about is purely towards your appearance, the look and feel of your graph. Okay. So here I'm saying that it is giving me a background grid kind of a thing. Okay. So to have the Seaborn styles activated, which is my plot styles, I have, instead of using the Seaborn set, which is my default set function, I have to call set style function. Okay. So that's my default. So default is set, but if you have to change the theme, change the look and feel of your graph, so you have to use set style. Okay, and so by default, if you call set, is going to be calling dark grid. So we have 5 themes available: dark grid, white grid, dark, white, ticks. Okay, so there are 5 different themes available. So by default is dark grid. So if you do not pass any argument, or if you call set, it is going to be calling dark grid. So this is basically my dark grid. Okay, so grid basically आप देखो check boxes है तो वो grid होता है, and dark है तो basically वो dark grid में. ठीक है, अब मैं क्या करूंगा? So same graph again, guys. I'm using the same graph again, but instead of this, so earlier it was sb.set, right? So I'm calling the default sb.set function, but now in this case, I'm using the sb.set style. Basically now I'm changing the background theme of my graph. Okay, so I can call white grid, I can call ticks, I can call white, anything. So let's use white grid, which is more visual, which is more distinguishable, right? So let's try to do that. Now, can you see this? Now the same graph, which is now before it was more of a dark grid, now it's of a white grid. Can you see this, the difference? So I'm going to be explaining each and every, I mean the maximum functions I can. Again, if I miss out something, do let me know. But again, I have tried to prepare the content to the best of my knowledge. Again, if you feel that something is missing, or do let me know that, I'll cover it. Okay, but again, it's more of my understanding. Abhinav, I've already said that. So we're going to be covering the SQL series over the weekend. So weekdays would be my Python for data science now, and weekends gonna be for SQL. So in this weekend, we're gonna have the marathon classes coming up. So we're gonna have 4 hours classes this weekend, 2 hours each on Saturdays and Sundays. Okay. So to answer you that, so we will be having the SQL classes over the weekends. Cool. Great. So likewise, you can call anything like dark or white. So let's call white for now. Let's see. So now can you see this? Now the grid has gone. So the check boxes are gone now, right? So if you call white, so the check boxes, the grid is gone. So if you call white grid, is going to be giving us grid in the background. Okay. So again, based on your knowledge, based on the things which you want. So set style is going to be useful to set your theme for the graph. Make sense? Cool. So that is for your first objective, which is my Seaborn styles, plot styles. Okay. Again, let me show it to you. Ticks हमने देखा नहीं है, ticks देख लेते हैं. Okay. सिंपल ही है, सेम ही है. अब इसमें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग क्या है, अब जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल हम अभी एक और फंक्शनैलिटी बताता हूं आपको. जनरली इसमें हमने क्या यूज किया हुआ है, अब हम इसमें क्या करें, हम जो ग्राफ देखते हैं, हम जो नॉर्मली ग्राफ एक्स एंड वाई एक्सिस पे देखते हैं, राइट. सो बेसिकली दिस इज माय एक्स एक्सिस, द हॉरिजॉन्टल लाइन, and the vertical line is my y axis, right? So this is what I look for in a graph, right? So for me technically ये ऊपर वाला line और right side वाला line ये तो useful नहीं है. This is not useful most of the time. But again, in some of the graphs where we have multiple axes, it's important. You cannot remove that. But again, in some of the, and I would say most of the graphs, the normal graphs, we are looking out for the x and the y axis, right? So generally ये ऊपर वाला line, top line, the right side line is not important for me, right? So you can remove this also. So for this, we have a function called a despine. So basically, you are despining your graph. Very, very, very lingual. So आप याद रखने में easy होगा क्या function होता है. Very lingual, right? So इसका function क्या होता है? It can remove the axis spines. So basically, top और right वाला जो line है ना, ये remove हो जाता है इससे. So normally we use it through x and y, right? So same graph है guys. अभी मैं यहाँ पे white grid कर देता हूँ वापस से. Easy रहेगा आपको देखने के लिए. और इनफैक्ट white कर, because grid में तो कोई मतलब नहीं रहेगा. White ले लेते हैं इसको. राइट. सो वाइट में क्या है, देखो इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग टू नोट हियर. सो अभी मैंने क्या करा, मैं यहां पे पहले साइन प्लॉट को कॉल कर रहा हूं, एंड देन कॉल करने के बाद मैं उसको डीस्पाइन कर रहा हूं. डीस्पाइन मतलब मैंने आपको पहले बताया था, डीस्पाइन मतलब आई एम रिमूव, माय ऑब्जेक्टिव इज टू रिमूव द टॉप एंड द राइट लाइन. लुक एट दिस. इफ यू कॉल इट, नाउ द आउटपुट हियर वुड बी लूजिंग आउट माय टॉप एंड द राइट लाइन, बिकॉज इसकी रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है मुझे. Cool. Any questions here? So till now we have covered set style and despine. I'm still using the same function, guys, and every time I'm copying it just to show you that with the same graph I can do n number of things. So now from here on I might not be copying the same thing. I'll be giving you some extra things, but again, the only reason I was copying the same code till now is to show you that the same graph में मैं क्या और चीजें कर सकता हूँ. ठीक है? Cool. So now अब इसमें और important thing to जानने के लिए क्या है, अब जैसे अभी हमने set style करा, right? अब इस set style के बाद भी इस set के अंदर we have the functionalities to alter my axis also. Okay? इस एक्सिस को भी मैं चेंज कर सकता हूं, इनफैक्ट इसके अंदर के डेटा को भी चेंज कर सकता हूं. सो विद दिस टू चेंज द पैरामीटर ऑफ माय, अगेन लुक एंड फील ऑफ माय डेटा. अगेन हियर मैं स्टाइल फंक्शन की बात कर, लोगों हम सिर्फ अभी स्टाइल की बात, थीमिंग की बात कर रहे हैं, राइट. सो लुक एंड फील की बात कर रहे हैं. So for the look and feel, along with set style, I also have certain parameters available which can be viewed under axis style. अब axis style कैसे हमें पता चलता है, ठीक है। अभी हम आपको एक चीज दिखाते हैं, ये देखो, अभी SNS.axis style अगर आप कॉल करोगे ना, तो इतने सारे आपके अवेलेबल फंक्शंस हैं जो कि आप अपने सेट स्टाइल के अंदर विद इन द डिक्शनरी कॉल कर सकते हो। अब देखो इसके अंदर क्या है, अब इसको मैं अब सबको एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर रहा हूं, बट यू कैन प्ले अराउंड विद दिस एनी टाइम। बट अगेन आई एम गोना शो इट यू, लाइक एक्सिस फेस कलर। सो बेसिकली एक्सिस का फेस कलर, एक्सिस का एज कलर, राइट, वेरी वेरी डिफाइंड। अब ग्रिड चाहिए, जैसे आपको पता है ना, व्हाइट ग्रिड या डार्क ग्रिड या व्हाइट या डार्क। सो अब इनफैक्ट एक्सिस डॉट ग्रिड में भी अगर आप फॉल्स कर दोगे तो ग्रिड चला जाएगा आपका व्हाइट ग्रिड के अंदर से। एक्सिस को बिलो रखना है कि नहीं रखना है, एक्सिस का लेबल कलर क्या होगा, ये बहुत सारी चीजें हैं इसके अंदर। यू कैन जस्ट प्ले अराउंड विद दिस, ओके। लॉट ऑफ फंक्शनलिटीज अवेलेबल एंड ये सारे आप पास कर सकते हो ऑन टॉप ऑफ माई सेट स्टाइल अंडर माई एक्सिस स्टाइल फंक्शन। कैसे पास करोगे मैं आपको वो दिखाता हूं। अभी देखो सेम चीज है, कैसा, अगेन सेम फंक्शन, डू नॉट गेट कंफ्यूज बाय दिस, इट्स स्टिल द सेम फंक्शन, ओके। सो नाउ व्हाट आई एम डूइंग इज, लुक एट दिस, जस्ट लुक एट दिस लाइन, ओके। सो अभी मैंने क्या बोला, डार्क ग्रिड में मुझे चाहिए, ठीक है। अभी मैं इसको वापस से अभी हटाता हूं यहां पे, ठीक है। अभी मैं लुक एट दिस, अभी मैं इसको यहां पे पुट कर रहा हूं, लेट मी अनकमेंट दिस और एंड कमेंट दिस, क्या। अभी मेरे को क्या मिला यहाँ पे, लुक एट दिस। अभी मैं इस सेम चीज को यहाँ पे प्लॉट करता हूँ आपके लिए, है ना। अब मैं इसको इसके साथ प्लॉट करता हूँ। अभी मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ, एज आई सेड, सो वी कैन पास सर्टेन अदर एक्सेस का फंक्शनैलिटीज ऑन टॉप ऑफ माई ग्रिड का फंक्शन, सेट स्टाइल के अंदर मैं पास कैसे पास करता हूँ, बेस्ड ऑन माई डिक्शनरीज, ओके। इनसाइड दिस डिक्शनरी मैं मल्टीपल चीज में पास कर सकता हूं। अब सपोज मेरे को क्या बोलना है, मैंने एक्सिस बिलो यूज किया, एक्सिस बिलो क्या करेगा आपको ये दिखाता हूं। नाउ लुक एट दिस। अब जो ये एक्सिस है वो नीचे चला गया, मतलब बेसिकली जो मेरा ये जो लाइन है, जो डेटा है, वो ग्रिड के नीचे चला गया। तो दिख रहा है आपको, ये ग्रिड ऊपर आ गया है, एंड नाउ ऑन द जंक्शन यू कैन सी दिस, द कलर, द लाइंस आर इन द बैकग्राउंड। सो बेसिकली your grid is on the top of your graph. Can you see this? So likewise again we have multiple things guys. I think मैंने यहाँ पे कुछ ना कुछ ऐड किया होगा, देखो राइट, मैं आपको शो करता हूँ यहाँ पे। Now look at this. I'll try to add few more functionalities and show it to you. है ना, यहीं पर आपको दिखाता हूँ, एक एक करके ऐड करता हूँ। चलो एक नेक्स्ट है एक्सिस का फेस कलर, ओके। नाउ लुक एट दिस, मैंने इस ग्रिड का फेस कलर ही चेंज कर दिया, ब्लू कर दिया। अभी मैं इसको रेड कर देता हूं, दिख रहा है। अभी मेरे पास पहले तो डार्क था ना, ग्रे आ रहा था, अभी बाय डिफॉल्ट ग्रे था, अभी मैंने इसको चेंज कर दिया, रेड ब्लू कर दिया, येलो कर देता हूं। इट्स योर विश अगेन। अब इसमें मैं कुछ और, इसमें एक्सिस ग्रिड भी ऐड कर सकता हूं। एक्सिस ग्रिड जो है, अभी देखो ये, अभी एक्सिस ग्रिड तो ऑलरेडी है ना यहाँ पे, मैं इसको फॉल्स कर देता हूं, ठीक है। ग्रिड चला गया बट येलो कलर रह गया। अब इनफैक्ट अगर मान लो ग्रिड ट्रू है तो उस ग्रिड का भी कलर आप चेंज कर सकते हो। अब ये बाय डिफॉल्ट देखो ग्रिड का कलर क्या होता है, ग्रिड का कलर आपको व्हाइट दिख रहा है यहाँ पर, राइट। अब मैं ग्रिड का कलर भी चेंज कर सकता हूं, ग्रिड का कलर आप कर दो रेड, तो ये ग्रिड का कलर रेड हो गया, ये दिख रहा है। सो बट अगेन यू कैन सी दिस, आई एम स्टिल यूजिंग दिस डी स्पाइन का फंक्शन, सो दे ऑल can be used interchangeably in the same plot itself. So that's where Seaborn is very handy, very customizable, है ना। ये जो ग्राफ्स है ना, ये बहुत कस्टमाइजेबल है, आप इसको अपने यूज के हिसाब से किसी भी तरीके से तोड़ मरोड़ सकते हो। अब लाइकवाइज मैं सारे फंक्शनलिटीज को रीड आउट नहीं कर रहा हूं गाइस, मैं एक बार स्टिल इसको प्रिंट कर देता हूं। कैन यू सी दिस, बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस हैं यार, मतलब बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस हैं। अब डिपेंडिंग ऑन, अब देखो देखिए ग्रिड का लाइन स्टाइल, ये दिख रहा है, ये हाइफन है, मतलब बेसिकली प्लेन लाइंस में चल रहा है, सिंगल स्ट्रेट लाइंस में। आप इसको डॉट भी कर सकते हो, डॉट हाइफन भी कर सकते हो, डॉट हाइफन डॉट भी कर सकते हो, मतलब डिपेंडिंग ऑन द यूजेज, आपको किस कैसा विजुअल रखना है ना। ये अगेन हम जो स्टाइलिंग की बात कर रहे हैं ना, ऑलवेज स्टाइल्ड फंक्शन जो है, always remember it's used for your look and feel of a graph. You're not changing any information, any data on this, okay? It's just for your look and feel, right? कोई question है anyone? Guys, anybody has any question? Okay, so if not, then मैं next function की तरफ जाता हूँ, which is my set context. Okay, so अभी हम set style की बात, अभी हम styling function की बात कर रहे थे, right? जैसे कि ये है ना, अभी स्टाइलिंग फंक्शन में क्या है, मैंने थीम को चेंज किया, थीम के बैकग्राउंड के कलर को चेंज किया, ग्रिड को चेंज किया, उसके साइज, शेप, लेंथ, ब्रेड्थ, सबको चेंज कर सकता हूँ, फॉन्ट को चेंज कर सकता हूँ, किसी भी चीज को चेंज कर सकता हूँ, राइट? दैट इज माई अपीयरेंस, दैट इज बेस्ड ऑन माई थीम। स्टाइलिंग कैसे है, सेट स्टाइल के थ्रू है, एंड देन एक्सेस स्टाइल के अंदर मल्टीपल फंक्शन है जो कि मैं सेट स्टाइल में एज अ डिक्शनरी पास कर सकता हूँ, है ना? आई हैव ऑलरेडी शोड इट यू। नाउ द नेक्स्ट important function again under my styling category only, okay? Under again my styling category, इसके अंदर में क्या आता है, context आता है, set context। context मतलब basically आप इस पूरे किस on which platform I would say you want to see this. I actually want to show it to you how it looks like. So context में basically क्या होता है, इट इज एक्चुअली हेल्पिंग यू फॉर एलिमेंट स्केलिंग। एलिमेंट स्केलिंग मतलब ये जो डेटा पॉइंट है आपका, किस विजुअल स्केल पे आप देखना चाहते हो। इसमें 4 ऑप्शंस होते हैं बाय डिफॉल्ट हमारे पास, या पेपर, नोटबुक, टॉक, पोस्टर। नोटबुक डिफॉल्ट है, पेपर, टॉक एंड पोस्टर। अभी मैं आपको इसको इंडिविजुअली शो करता हूं, इसका मतलब क्या होता है आपको समझ में आएगा तब, ठीक है? मैंने अभी क्या किया, मैं अभी इसको कर देता हूँ sns.set context कर देता हूँ मैं। बाय डिफॉल्ट तो है नोटबुक ना, नोटबुक ही रखता हूँ for आपको पहले समझाने के लिए। देखो अभी ये तुम्हारा बाय डिफॉल्ट ग्राफ बन रहा है, अभी एक्सेस बिलो को ट्रू कर देता हूँ, ठीक है? अभी मेरे पास ये नॉर्मल ग्राफ है, ठीक है? अभी नॉर्मल ग्राफ के अंदर what I'm doing is context as notebook, so basically नोटबुक की तरह दिख रहा है। अभी मैं इसको अगर पेपर कर देता हूं और इनफैक्ट पोस्टर करता हूं तो आपको विजुअल दिखाई देगा। कैन यू सी दिस? सो नाउ स्केलिंग चेंज हो गई, ये दिख रहा है आपको? अब मैं -5 to 5 के बीच में दिखा रहा हूं डेटा को, बट एक्चुअली में मेरा स्केल क्या है, -6 to 6, और जिसमें -4, -2, 0, 2, 4, 6 सब दिखा रहा हूं मैं, करेक्ट? बट इसमें मैंने क्या करा, पोस्टर को जब मैं करोगे तो इसका डेटा का स्केलिंग चेंज हो गया मेरा, दिख रहा है? अभी डेटा कॉम्पैक्ट हो गया, अभी मतलब इसमें मल्टीपल टिक्स नहीं दिख रहे हैं, मल्टीपल लेबल्स नहीं दिख रहे हैं एक्स और वाई में, बट ये मोर कॉम्पैक्ट हो गया डेटा, बट इसके स्केल चेंज हो गए। लाइकवाइज अगर आप इसको टॉक कर दोगे तो उसका अलग चेंज हो जाता है, दिख रहा है? अगेन इसकी स्केलिंग चेंज हो गई। सो बेसिकली अगर आपके एलिमेंट्स का स्केलिंग को अगर आपको चेंज करना है, कीपिंग द बैकग्राउंड एंड द थीम इंटैक्ट, I'm going to use the context. Okay, so by default as again I have said notebook. So जो कि आपका Jupyter notebook है, that is your default if you don't pass anything. Okay, but again if you want to change the scaling of your elements, you can pass the context. So in this we can, as I've said, we can pass poster or talk or paper, anything. So let it be notebook only for now. Clear guys? Any questions? समझ में आ रहा है, और इज इट लाइक टू एनग्रोसिंग? Okay, I feel people are okay understanding it. Okay, anyways, any question guys, do let me know in the chat. I am still monitoring it so we can have your questions answered. Cool. अभी नेक्स्ट बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग हमारे पास ऑप्शन है Seaborn के अंदर ही, कलर पैलेट। अभी अब सपोज जैसे कि ये जो है ना बाय डिफॉल्ट आ रहा है आपका येलो ऑरेंज, सॉरी ऑरेंज ब्लू ग्रीन रेड के अंदर आ रहा है, करेक्ट। अभी मैं इसको चेंज भी कर सकता हूँ, आई कैन हैव माई ओन सेट ऑफ कलर्स इन दिस। सो एज यू नो कलर्स आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट। सो किसी भी ग्राफ में जब आप बनाते हो इन एनालिटिक्स, कलर्स एक्चुअली प्ले अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल। एंड आपको मैं दिखाऊंगा हाउ कैन यू यूज कलर्स इन अ डिफरेंट फैशन, डिफरेंट वेज, शेड्स को एंड डिफरेंट कलर पैटर्न्स को कैसे आप यूज कर सकते हो, ठीक है। सो बाय डिफॉल्ट सीबॉर्न के अंदर एक फंक्शन है कलर पैलेट। Okay, so color palette is a function which you can use, which you can call inside Seaborn to have your colors का mix up, ठीक है। So अभी इसके अंदर multiple arguments पास होते हैं। पैलेट है, पैलेट जो आपको मैं बताऊंगा बेसिकली क्या पैलेट चूज करना है आपको, किस पैलेट मतलब बेसिकली आपका कौन सा कलर पैलेट आपको चूज करना है। आई विल शो इट टू यू, ओके। नंबर ऑफ कलर्स विच यू वांट टू चूज, बाय डिफॉल्ट 6 होते हैं इसमें, ठीक है। बाय डिफॉल्ट 6 कलर्स जाता है, बट अगेन यू कैन स्टिल स्पेसिफाई द नंबर ऑफ कलर्स विच यू वांट टू चूज। desat अगेन द सैचुरेशन लेवल, सो डिसैचुरेट करने के लिए प्रोपोर्शन ऑफ डिसैचुरेशन लेवल, सो आई विल शो इट टू यू अगेन। Okay, so by default there are readily available Seaborn palettes. Okay, so deep, muted, bright, pastel, dark, colorblind. Okay, again मैं आपको क्विकली शो कर देता हूं कि इसके अंदर होता क्या है। ओके, बट अगेन these are the readily available palettes, बट अगेन इसके अलावा भी हमारे पास बहुत सारे इंडिविजुअल पैलेट्स अवेलेबल हैं, ओके। और आप कैसे, ये मैंने जो लिस्ट बना रखी है आपको दिख रहा होगा, ये हमारे अवेलेबल पैलेट्स हैं। इतने टाइप ऑफ अवेलेबल लिस्ट्स हैं मेरे पास, जो कि मुझे आई कैन यूज इट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ द कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ माई कलर्स, ओके। अब जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था हमारे पास एक फंक्शन है कलर पैलेट, राइट। सो कलर पैलेट के अंदर इसका फर्स्ट आर्गुमेंट क्या है, पैलेट, राइट। सो मैं कुछ भी नहीं पास कर रहा हूं, तो बाय डिफॉल्ट ले रहा हूं। सो अगर मैं यहाँ पे पास करूँ तो फर्स्ट आर्गुमेंट पास कर रहा हूँ मैं नेम ऑफ माई पैलेट विच यू वांट टू चूज, राइट। एंड देन पैलेट प्लॉट हमारा एक अगेन फंक्शन है सीबॉर्न के अंदर ही, जो कि मेरा कलर का पैलेट शो करता है, बेसिकली कौन सा कलर थीम हम यूज कर रहे हैं। सो नाउ एज यू नो दिस, अभी मैंने को बताया था कि डार्क, डीप, म्यूटेड ये पहले से, तो पहले डीप चेक कर लेते हैं, ठीक है। डीप चेक कर लेते हैं। सो ये देखो, ये दिख रहा है आपको। सो बाय डिफॉल्ट दिस इज माई डीप कलर पैलेट। सो अगर मैं डीप यूज करता हूं पैलेट, तो ये सारे कलर्स आएंगे। सो थोड़े डार्क कलर्स आ रहे हैं, ब्लू, डार्क ऑरेंज, डार्क ग्रीन, डार्क रेड, सो सारे डार्क कलर्स आ रहे हैं मेरे पास। ये डीप है, ठीक है। अब सपोज मैं डीप कुछ और टाइप कर दिया, मेरे को पता नहीं है, बाय डिफॉल्ट आई डोंट नो ना, मेरे को पता नहीं है कौन से पैलेट्स अवेलेबल हैं, तो मैं भगवान तो नहीं, मुझे पता नहीं है। सपोज मैंने कुछ गलत टाइप कर दिया, तो ये आपको बेसिकली एरर देगा, ठीक है। अब ये जो लिस्ट जो मैंने यहाँ पे लिखा है ना, ये लिस्ट मैंने यहीं से कॉपी करी है, तो ये गुड थिंग। जब आप एरर करते हो तो बेसिकली आपको एक लिस्ट दे देता है, भैया कि यही सारे लिस्ट हैं जो मेरे पास अवेलेबल हैं, ठीक है। मैंने एग्जैक्टली यही यहाँ कॉपी पेस्ट किया हुआ है, ठीक है। तो ये सारे अवेलेबल लिस्ट हैं। अब कोई ये आपने पूछा नहीं, बट ये आप पूछ सकते थे कि हाउ विल यू गेट टू नो कि कौन कौन से लिस्ट अवेलेबल है। तो आप जब कुछ एरर, जब वो एरर देगा ना, कुछ भी बाय डिफॉल्ट रैंडम नेम डालोगे तो एरर देगा वो, तो एरर में वो बेसिकली अवेलेबल रहता है, ठीक है। ये मतलब रिवर्स इंजीनियरिंग कहते हैं इसको, बट या अदर वे अराउंड, सो यू कैन फाइंड आउट, ओके। अब एग्जाम्पल, अब तो चलो हमें पता चल गया ना कि ये सारे अवेलेबल हैं। अब हर एक का इंडिविजुअल इंपॉर्टेंस है। अब जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल सपोज मैं ब्लूज रन करता हूं, ठीक है। आपको डिफरेंशिएट करना बताता हूं कि यूजेज कैसे। अब देखो यहाँ पे दिख रहा है आपको, ये ब्लूज में क्या हो रहा है कि ब्लूज जो है स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम ब्लूज डिफरेंट शेड्स ऑफ ब्लू में जा रहा है, राइट। सो पहले लाइट हुआ, उसके से थोड़ा डार्क हुआ, उससे ज्यादा डार्क, बाद में बहुत डार्क हो गया, राइट। तो ये ब्लूज के शेड्स हैं मेरे पास, करेक्ट, समझ में आ रहा है। अब लाइकवाइज ऐसे शेड्स के मेरे पास बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस हैं इसमें। मैं इसमें ग्रेज, जैसे ग्रेज के भी शेड होता है, इसमें ग्रेज दिखाता हूं आपको। अगर आप ग्रेज भी करोगे, सिमिलरली ग्रेज नहीं, क्या ग्रेज जी कैपिटल है, माय बैड, सॉरी। ये ग्रेज के शेड्स हैं, राइट। सो लाइकवाइज मेरे पास बहुत सारे ऐसे अलग अलग शेड्स हैं जो कि एक मतलब वन पॉइंट ऑफ कलर से हल्का लाइट से होकर के डार्क चलता चला जाएगा, राइट। बट अगेन अब जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल आपको मैं दिखाता हूँ बाइफर्केशन के लिए, एक होता है रेड ऑरेंज, कहाँ यार, येलो और रेड दिखाता हूँ, ठीक है। ये देखो, अगर आप ये देखो येलो और रेड, देखो अभी स्टार्टिंग हुआ येलो से बट वो एंड हुआ रेड पे, राइट। सो बेसिकली हमारा क्या है ना, सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट ऑब्जेक्टिव हमें ये समझना पड़ेगा कि हम किस पर्पस से कलर्स को यूज कर रहे हैं, ठीक है। अब डेटा अगर हमारा सीक्वेंशियल है, अगर हमारा डेटा इंक्रीमेंट ऑर्डर में है, अगर वो इंक्रीज हो रहा है, अगर सीक्वेंशियल डेटा है, तो हम अब शेड्स को यूज कर सकते हैं, लाइक ग्रीन्स एंड ब्लूज जो मैंने आपको शो किया था, ऐसे ग्रीन्स भी दिखा देता हूं, राइट। अरे यार, ठीक है। सो ये शेड्स क्या है, बेसिकली एक सीक्वेंस में डेटा आ रहा है मेरे पास, राइट। सो स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम समथिंग एंड देन एंडिंग एट समथिंग, सो देयर इज अ शेड ऑफ माय डेटा, राइट। सो सीक्वेंशियल डेटा है अगर, तो हम किसी शेड्स को यूज कर सकते हैं। बट अगर कोई डेटा डाइवर्जिंग है, सपोज एक सर्टेन हाफ डेटा कुछ और है, सर्टेन हाफ डेटा कुछ और है, लाइक -1 +1, सो 0 से पहले वाला -1 है, 0 to +1 वाला अदर डेटा है, so there is a bifurcation, right? So in that case we can use something like BRBG. So मैं BRBG शो कर रहा हूँ, लाइक अब बाइफर्केशन येलो और रेड में भी मैं आपको दिखा रहा था। BRBG में क्या है यार, BRBG क्यों नहीं रन हुआ, BRBG तो होना चाहिए, BRBG कैपिटल है यार, माय बैड। ये दिख रहा है। सो ये लेफ्ट वाला जो पार्ट है वो मुझे दिख रहा है कि यहाँ पे आपके कितने हैं, रेड हैं, और राइट साइड वाले ग्रीन है। सो बेसिकली लेफ्ट वाले -1 में चले जाएंगे, राइट वाले +1 में चले जाएंगे, राइट। अब जैसे आपको मैंने बताया था, बाय डिफॉल्ट यहाँ पे क्या लेता है, n कलर्स, डिफॉल्ट 6 है ना। तो दिख रहा होगा आपको, यहाँ पे बाय डिफॉल्ट 6 कलर्स आ रहे हैं, राइट। अब सेम चीज अगर आप यहाँ पे 6 की जगह पे अगर आप यहाँ पे 10 पास कर दोगे तो क्या है, यहाँ पे 10 शेड्स आ जाएंगे, दिख रहा है। सो उसी शेड में वो 10 डिफरेंट शेड्स में बट गया, वो नंबर ऑफ, जितने नंबर ऑफ कलर्स आपको चाहिए वो मैं पास कर रहा हूँ यहाँ पे, ठीक है। सो अगेन ऑब्जेक्टिव इज गाइस, यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड कि आप किस पर्पस से डेटा को यूज कर रहे हो और उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, उसके अकॉर्डिंगली you can choose the color pattern which you want to use for your data. Making sense guys? ठीक है, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट ऑब्जेक्टिव है। एंड लाइकवाइज एज I've showed, so we can use the multiple color patterns based on our usage. आप इसके अंदर प्ले अराउंड करो। सो मे बी कुछ और मैं शो कर देता हूँ, लाइक समर फॉर एग्जाम्पल शो करता हूँ आपको। समर क्या है, ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है यार, इसमें ना बहुत सारे शेड्स आपको दिख रहा होगा, ये ग्रीन और येलो के शेड में चला गया। ऑटम है, ऑटम भी बहुत ही सुंदर शेड है, हम नॉर्मली यूज करते हैं, दिख रहा है आपको। ये रेड ऑन, ये अगेन डिपेंडिंग ऑन द यूजेज है। एक हसल करके होता है, हसल हम बहुत नॉर्मली यूज करते हैं। हसल ये बहुत ही अच्छा ब्राइट शेड है, सो हसल हम अगेन बहुत जनरली यूज करते हैं। ट्वाइलाइट अगेन इट्स अ गुड शेड, राइट। सो डिपेंडिंग ऑन द यूजेज गाइस, है ना। सो आपके क्या यूज है, आपको पहले समझना पड़ेगा कि आप किस डेटा पे काम करो। सीक्वेंशियल डेटा है तो आप पैटर्न्स को देखोगे। अगर आपका डाइवर्जिंग डेटा है, मतलब डिफरेंट आपको +1 -1 टाइप का डेटा है, तो उसमें डिस्टिंग्विशन होना चाहिए, लेफ्ट का कुछ और कलर, राइट का कुछ और कलर। तो डिपेंडिंग ऑन द यूजेज यू हैव टू सेलेक्ट दैट कलर पैलेट। एंड इसी कलर पैलेट को यू कैन एक्चुअली पास ऑन टॉप ऑफ माई existing graph itself, right? So now ये by default ये default जो कलर ले रहा है, मैं इन्हीं 4 कलर को अपने हिसाब से चेंज कर दूंगा, मेरे को जो कलर चाहिए, क्लियर? ठीक है। सो with this I think let's stop for the day. We have covered some really good things. Anybody has any questions in today's thing, whatever we have learned? So tomorrow I'm gonna cover some interesting graphs. So अभी तो हम styling पे बात कर रहे हैं, but tomorrow we're gonna start with some graphs, and I'll try to cover it ASAP. But again, anybody has any questions on anything which we have covered so far? Style function, context, set, color palette, axis style. किसी को किसी चीज में कोई इश्यू है? Okay, so I believe people are fine with the discussed things. Cool. But then let's wind up for the session today. I believe it was a good one for you. So let's join tomorrow, same time, 9 p.m. So we're gonna cover the remaining part of my Seaborn. So we're gonna do that. Cool. Any last moment question, guys? Do ping on the chat, or else we are good to close for today. Great. But then, guys, thank you so much for joining in, and I wish you a pleasant night post this. Happy learning, and thank you so much for joining. Let's join tomorrow again at the same time, 9 p.m. Thank you so much. Bye bye.